Not much is known about the so-called Brandenburgers, the commando unit of Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, head of the Abwehr, military intelligence, in the Wehrmacht High Command until 1943. What has been reported since the Second World War should often be treated with great caution. But as far as remaining unknown is concerned, this was already the case during the war years, because many of the commando operations were top secret. Brandenburg was neither a probationary nor a penal unit, nor did it belong to the Waffen-SS. Instead, it was formed in 1939 as a battalion of Abwehr II in the Bendler Block, from April 1943 as a hunter division with green armbands. The black ones on the internet are fakes. The Wehrmacht Command, and from 1944 as a tank grenadier division, then the Army High Command. It all began with the Brandenburgers immediately before the outbreak of war on the 1st of September 1939, when Reserve Lieutenant Siegfried Grabert, on orders from Admiral Canaris and the head of Abwehr Department II, Colonel von Lahusen, formed a company of ethnic German volunteers who had been transferred to Brandenburg an der Havel during the Polish campaign as the ZBV 800 Construction Training Company to the Generalfeldzeugmeister Barracks on Magdeburger Strasse. ZBV stood for Special Use. There, at the beginning of 1940, Captain Theodor von Hippel, who was directly subordinate to Abwehr II, set up the ZBV Construction Battalion, consisting of 3 training companies. After numerous new recruits joined in mid-1940 and the battalion was bursting at the seams, it was reorganized on June 1st as the training regiment ZBV 800 Brandenburg, after which its members were increasingly referred to simply as the Brandenburgers. The 1st Battalion remained in Brandenburg, while the 2nd Mountain Infantry Battalion, which was formed near Baden in Lower Austria, was stationed both at Weilburg Castle and in Bad Vöslau at the Hotel Stephanie. The 3rd Battalion was stationed in Düren. After the Brandenburg Training Regiment had also grown larger and larger, on November 20th, 1942, the division-like special unit Brandenburg was formed from it, consisting of 4 regiments. Then, on April 1st, 1943, the special unit was renamed to Hunter Division Brandenburg, removed from Abwehr Department II, and placed directly under the Wehrmacht High Command. From now on, it was mostly deployed in the Balkans for anti-partisan operations. On the 8th of September, 1944, the last reorganization of the Hunter Division took place near Belgrade, forming the Panzergrenadier Division Brandenburg with 2 Hunter regiments, which merged with the Panzergrenadier Division Grand Germany on the 20th of December, 1944, to form the Army Tank Corps Grand Germany. Until, after heavy losses in combat, on May 9th, 1945, the division was dissolved by its commander, Major General Schulte-Heuthaus, near Deutschbrot in eastern Bohemia, with many soldiers falling victim to the enraged mob. This brief review of the organization is important because it shows how sparingly the Knight's Cross was awarded to these secret, sometimes battle-deciding warriors during the war years. Because in the past, up until 1943, the Brandenburg commando platoons and companies had always been subordinated to larger units, and their commanders often used them up recklessly in order to spare their own troops. But when the Brandenburgers achieved a special success, for reasons of secrecy, they usually had to return to anonymity, while the host unit rewarded itself with medals and decorations for the deeds of the Brandenburgers. In total, during the 5 years of war, only 19 Knight's Crosses were awarded to Brandenburgers, 7 of them in the last months of the war alone. 3 of their recipients were awarded the Oak Leaves, 2 rejoined the Bundeswehr in 1956, and a total of 8 of them were killed in action. In my report on the awards given to Brandenburgers, I will not proceed in chronological order at first, because the first three I mention share an unfortunate post-war biography, which I will address shortly. The first award was made on the 24th of June, 1940, to the first lieutenant in the 4th Company of the Construction Training Battalion, ZBV 800, Wilhelm Walter. During the campaign in France, he, as a commando leader, captured the strategically important Maas Bridge at Gennep in Holland, which then allowed Army Group B under Colonel General Fedor von Bock to continue its advance without hindrance. At the end of 1944, Walter, who was born on January 27, 1910 in Dresden, was severely wounded as a lieutenant colonel and regimental commander. After his recovery from March 1945 until the end of the war, he became chief of staff with an SS rank in the so-called SS Special Hunting Units under SS Standartenführer Otto Skorzeny. That was also the reason why Walter, starting in May 1945, went into hiding in Austria under the assumed name Uwe Schütze. On April 30, 1943, Karl-Heinz Osterwitz, first lieutenant and commander of the 7th Company in the Training Regiment, was awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. From autumn 1944, he commanded the 2nd Brandenburg Hunter Regiment as a major, was promoted to senior lieutenant on the 1st of January 1945, and on the 10th of February 1945, he was awarded the Oak Leaves to the Knight's Cross as the 734th Soldier of the Wehrmacht. And on April 14, 1945, captain of the reserve and battalion commander in the 1st Regiment, led by Wilhelm Walter, Erich Rosecke, was awarded. Rosecke, born on the 24th of January 1921 in Stuttgart, was promoted through the ranks of pioneer private, pioneer corporal, sergeant, and leader of a Korsakenzug special unit in 1943, promoted to 2nd lieutenant in 1944, 1st lieutenant and company commander in 1945, and captain and battalion commander or combat group leader in 1945. Now, earlier I spoke about the shared post-war fate of these three. This came about because, as soon as peace was declared in May 1945, the 23-year-old Rosecke tried to find as many addresses of former Brandenburg comrades as possible and write them down in his notebook. During his research, in which he mainly wanted to find out whether the old comrades were still alive at all, a former comrade must have reported him to the Counterintelligence Corps, the CIC, the Military Intelligence Service of the United States Armed Forces. After those files were released, it became known in 2021 that during the war, the Norwegian citizen living in Norwegian and Swedish exile, the Social Democratic Party politician and later German Chancellor Willy Brandt, worked as a paid informant for the CIC from 1948 to 1952, reporting on conditions in the German Democratic Republic and among Soviet troops. According to research by U.S. historian Thomas Bockhart at the Center for American Military History, in 1950, Willy Brandt and Hans Emil Hirschfeld, who worked as an analyst for the U.S. Office for Strategic Services, OSS, in New York during the war, and served as spokesman for the Berlin SPD after the war, met with CIA employees at the German headquarters in Frankfurt, whereupon Hirschfeld received 200,000 Deutschmarks from the Americans under the strictest secrecy for the promotion of Brandt's political career. As regards the activities of CIC 45 towards former members of the Brandenburg Division, the files that have now been declassified reveal that those in Rosecke suspected that they were collecting addresses to set up a secret organization of commando soldiers to continue the war or liberate German generals imprisoned in Landsberg, for example, who were awaiting trial. In the subsequent CIC Operation Brandy standing for Brandenburg, Rocipients had already been arrested and interrogated on June 23, 1945. During this process, the interrogators treated the highly decorated former German captain, to put it politely, in a very rough manner. Austerlitz was also captured by the United States Army on January 1st and handed over to the CIC. Although he and Rocipients were initially released after the former member of the SS Special Operations Unit Southwest, Hans Koch, hinted to the Americans about planned black market activities by Walter and another comrade, Walter was first arrested in Austria on July 12, 1946, followed by Erich Rocipients on July 16, and Austerlitz on August 7, 1946. After that, more former Brandenburg officers listed in Rocipients' address book were also subjected to extremely harsh interrogations. After months of investigation, when the matter turned out to be harmless, Operation Brandy was officially terminated in April 1947. While Austerlitz had already been released on February 1, 1947, Walter remained in Dutch captivity until May 17, 1950, and Rocipients was held in American custody until 1948. He died on May 2, 1994, in Leinfelden near Stuttgart, Austerlitz on June 13, 1999 in Pulheim near Cologne, and Wilhelm Walter on November 25, 2010 in Heidelberg-Boxberg near Lyman. From now on, the awards of the Knight's Cross are in chronological order. After a commando raid on the strategically important Vardar Bridge near Axios in the border area between Bulgaria and Greece, the reserve first lieutenant and commander of the 8th Company in the Siegfried Training Regiment, Grabert, was awarded the Knight's Cross on the 10th of June, 1941. He was killed in action on the 25th of July, 1942, while attempting to capture the roads and railway bridges over the Don south of Rostov, which were important for the advance towards the Caucasus. A year and a half later, on the 6th of November 1943, Grabert was posthumously promoted to captain of the reserve and awarded the Knight's Cross with oak leaves as the 320th soldier to receive this honor. On September 14, 1942, after a particularly successful camouflage operation in Russian uniforms, the Russian-speaking Lieutenant Adrian Baron von Felkersam, who came from the Baltic region, was promoted to First Lieutenant of the Reserve at the same time. 2 years later, at the end of September 1944, he transferred to the SS Special Operations Unit East, where, as an SS captain of the reserve, he was involved in camouflage operations behind enemy lines during the Ardennes offensive between December 1944 and January 1945. On January 21, 1945, Baron von Felkersam was killed by a gunshot to the head near Hohensalza in West Prussia. He was posthumously promoted to Major of the Reserve. In contrast, the military writer Hagenberger writes that Felkersam survived wounded and was taken as a commando specialist into Soviet captivity, after which his trail would be lost in Moscow from 1949 onward. After Reserve Lieutenant Ernst Prochaska, born on the 7th of June, 17 in Moravian Ostrava in the Sudetenland, a professor in Prague in civilian life, was killed in action on the 9th of August 1942 while advancing towards the oil fields of the Caucasus as leader of the 8th Company on a commando mission to capture the road bridge over the Belaya near Maykop. He was posthumously awarded the Knight's Cross on the 16th of September 1942. For the capture on June 26, 1941, of the Duner Bridge near Dunerberg in Latvia, which had been occupied by the Red Army, First Lieutenant Hans Wolfram Knack of the 8th Company, who was killed in action, was posthumously awarded the Knight's Cross on November 3, 1942. At the same time, the man born on July 14, 1914 in Magdeburg, was also posthumously promoted to Rittmeister, equivalent to captain. The next Brandenburg to be honored was Reserve Lieutenant Werner Lau, then platoon leader of the 5th Company of the Training Regiment, on the 19th of September, 1942, after the capture of the important railway bridge over the Terek west of the town of Erek. From 1944 until the end of the war, Lau served as a reserve major and adjutant to the commander of the Panzer Grenadier Division, Brandenburg, Major General Hermann Schulte-Heuthaus. Lau, who was born on July 12, 1908 in Hamburg, Altona, rejoined the Bundeswehr in 1956 and retired as a lieutenant colonel. He died on the 26th of May, 1980 in Hamburg-Rheinbeck. On the 15th of January, 1943, Erhard Lange, born on the 31st of March, 1913, in Plauen in the Vogtland region, was awarded the Knight's Cross as a reserve First Lieutenant Erhard Lange, born on the 31st of March, 1913, in Plauen in the Vogtland region, for his service in the Wehrmacht High Command's defensive operation Schamil, which lasted from the 25th of August to the 10th of September, 1942. Here is Lange with his Afghan volunteers. About this commando operation, which did not end successfully and took place thousands of kilometers away from Germany, I have published both this video, titled Division Brandenburg in the Caucasus, and this book with the same title. Lang was a reserve captain at the end of the war. He passed away on September 29, 1972, in Baden-Württemberg. On the 16th of September, 1943, Friedrich von Koenen, captain in the 4th Regiment of Brandenburg, born on the 28th of June, 1616, in Danzig-Langfuhr, was honored. As an expert on African conditions, he succeeded as the leader of a 30-man commando unit, flown in by cargo gliders, in destroying the railway bridge at Sidi Boubaker, which was deep behind Allied lines in southern Tunisia, and then, without losses, marching on foot through the desert to reach the German line 200 kilometers away. Major von Koenen was killed in action between August 20 and 22, 1944, as commander of the 3rd Battalion in the 4th Regiment Brandenburg, southeast of Visegrad in Bosnia and Herzegovina near the border with Serbia, and was posthumously promoted to lieutenant colonel. On January 26, 1944, the Knight's Cross was awarded to Captain of the Reserve Kurt Konrad Steidl, who was born on March 23, 1919 in Knappen, Styria, and was the deputy commander of the 1st Battalion in the 2nd Hunter Division Brandenburg. After the war, he ended as a major in the reserve and later became an elementary school teacher and principal. Steidl passed away on August 5, 2004 in Rettenegg, Austria. As the leader of the Front Reconnaissance Command 202, after an operation lasting more than 5 weeks deep in the Soviet hinterland, Captain Dietrich Witzel, whose real name was Dietrich Kern, and who was born on February 22, 1917 in Tübingen, was awarded on December 12, 1944. After the war, which he ended as a reserve major, Kern earned his doctorate and was a co-author of the 2006 Afghanistan Guide published by the Military History Research Office of the Bundeswehr, which every Bundeswehr soldier received during their deployment in Afghanistan. Dr. Witzel passed away on January 16, 2015 in Lochum, Bavaria. The next awards all took place in 1945, such as the one on the 11th of March 1945 for Colonel Erich von Bruckner, commander of the 1st Hunter Regiment 1 Brandenburg, born on the 2nd of September 1896 in Metz, for his successful escape from Lissow in the province of Posen. He passed away on April 6, 1949 in Kreiling, Bavaria. On the 9th of January 1944, the Knight's Cross was awarded to Max Wandre, Reserve First Lieutenant and Commander of the 11th Company in the Brandenburg 1st Hunter Regiment, who was born in Hamburg on the 8th of April 1910. Here he is with his regimental commander, Wilhelm Walter, and General Felmy of the Air Force on the day of the award ceremony, presumably in Crete. He played a decisive role in the capture of the island of Leros by the Müller Combat Group during Operation Leopard in mid-November 1943. Wandre succumbed to his severe wounds on February 21, 1945, at the Crauschwitz Field Hospital in Lower Silesia as a major of the reserve and commander of the 2nd Battalion of the Hunter Regiment 1 Brandenburg, after his battalion was able to achieve a defensive success against a Soviet Guards Rifle Division during the fighting in the southern part of the Sagan Forest in Silesia. On March 16, 1945, Wandre was posthumously awarded the Oak Leaves to the Knight's Cross as the 787th soldier of the Wehrmacht. On the 17th of March, 1945, the leader of the 2nd Battalion in the 2nd Brandenburg Hunter Regiment, First Lieutenant Eckhard Affeldt, born on the 15th of August, 1921 in Neustetten, Pomerania, was honored. On January 31, 1945, his battalion, with attached assault guns and tank destroyers, destroyed numerous Soviet armored vehicles in the area of Lodz, then called Litzmannstadt, and in doing so, eliminated the threat to the flanks of Army Group East Prussia. After the war, Affeldt joined the Bundeswehr in 1956 and had a remarkable career there, in which he described his military activities with Brandenburg in a refined manner in his biographical notes. Brigadier General A.D. Affeldt died on the 3rd of December, 1999, in Waldürn. The next Brandenburg to be awarded the Knight's Cross was Reserve Lieutenant Helmut von Leipzig, who was born on July 18, 1921 in Keetmanshoop, Southwest Africa, and received the award on April 28, 1945. He had first become known in the African campaign as Field Marshal Rommel's driver, then became an officer, joined the Brandenburgers, and distinguished himself in their fighting before the end of the war as a platoon leader in the Brandenburg Armored Reconnaissance Unit. Von Leipzig was in Soviet captivity until 1955, then returned to Namibia as a farmer, where he died in Windhoek on October 25, 2016, at the age of 95. The last 3 confirmed awards took place on May 8, 1945, the last day of World War II, in Europe, such as the one given to the commander of the Brandenburg Armored Artillery Regiment, Major Wilhelm Brückerhoff, who was born on September 3, 1907 in Essen, for his achievements during the final battles on the main front line west of the Lusatian Heath. Brückerhoff died on July 16, 1971 in Bochum, Linden, and was buried with military honors in Moors. The next person awarded on May 8 was Captain Friedrich Müller-Roch-Holtz, born on February 16, 1914 in Solingen, commander of the Brandenburg Armored Assault Engineer Battalion in the Brandenburg Armored Grenadier Division, for his achievements during the battles on the Nazi front. He too was in Soviet captivity until October 17, 1955, and afterwards was the longtime head of the social department at the Eschweiler Mining Association. Müller-Roch-Holtz passed away on May 5, 2002 in Herzogenrath. The last award of the Knight's Cross to Brandenburgers on the 8th of May, 1945, for which there is no photograph, was to Major Werner Voschage, born on the 19th of September, 1913, commander of the Brandenburg Army Flag Artillery Unit in the Panzer Corps Großdeutschland, Werner Voschage, for his defensive success with only 3 8.8 guns in 1945 during the defensive battles at Wehrkirch on the Neisse. According to one source, Wojcik passed away on August 25, 1948 in Kirchgandern, Thuringia. For the sake of completeness, I would like to mention the awarding of the Knight's Cross of the War Merit Cross with Swords, which has only been awarded approximately 272 times, on the 12th of August 1944 to Richard Volkmann, born on the 30th of March 1911 in Dungen, district of Osterode, von Junker Oberwachtmeister, in the Festival News Reconnaissance Unit 10 in the Foreign Intelligence Service, Richard Volkmann. He passed away on April 12, 1965. Those were the 19 names of the secret warriors of the Brandenburg units who were awarded the Knight's Cross. Compared to other large units, that was relatively few. For example, in the 46th Infantry Division, there were 35 recipients of the Knight's Cross and 3 with oak leaves, and in the 58th Infantry Division, there were 26 recipients of the Knight's Cross and 4 with oak leaves. This shows that even when awarding this highest German decoration, there were sometimes double standards, because the Brandenburg operations were often based on strategic considerations. However, it is also a fact that most commando leaders did not survive their missions in the long run. About 75 to 80% of them were killed. Here, in 1941, are the remains of a shattered Brandenburg unit. Some Brandenburg officers were posthumously honored and promoted, as we have heard. But all the others have been forgotten, and their graves are now overgrown.